Hello, hello, hello. Yes, we are back and just in time too, because it does look like they are ready to come back in. I saw posting. Okay, so I think I'll talk from the corner so we don't miss anything. Can I get a sound check from anyone who's here? Hi there, Rocket Couch. How you doing? How do I sound? I guess you could actually check in both places how I sound, huh? Hmm. Thank you for what you did with the bingo cards. I saw what you did there. Taser, taser, taser. I loved it. I was cracking up. I lost a little bit of coffee during lunch. You made me laugh. It was awesome. It really was. Here we are, and I have the volume all the way up. Thank you, Jen.
The jury's not present. Parties are present. You ready to bring the jury in?
Here it is.
Defense ready?
Sure, Your Honor.
Is your paralegal coming?
My investigator should be here, but I don't know if he's running behind.
Okay. All right, let's bring the jury in.
Okay, so they're bringing in the jury. Shuffle, shuffle, paper, paper. I'm glad the sound is good though. All the scratchy's gone. I did do a reset during lunch. I figured that was a good idea. And using the other feed since we had no buffering in the last part of the stream. I don't know if it was weather where the other stream was coming out or if it was through the court. I guess we'll see. But this stream here, I don't like the layout as much because I'm over on the other side, but it's necessary based on how they do all of their promos and stuff like that. But it was more stable, and I did use it last night to catch that little bit of Christina Atwood's testimony because they were the only one that had absolutely clear audio. Remember, the audio was going in and out, and we were missing questions because there was no audio. 4 of the other feeds all had that audio issue except for this one. So I think I'll stick with this one for today. I should have started with this one based on yesterday, but you know. Okay, so if it's not running an ad, the APO goes right from waiting to the stream. Okay.
Yeah. So we were talking before lunch, and you have told us that you sort of spent 2 weekends getting to know Lori Vallow, correct?
Yes,
That was the November of 2018 visit.
with a lot of other people there, correct? Yeah.
And then the March of 2019 visit.
Yes, the girls' weekend,
And that was a much smaller group of people.
correct.
And I think you had said that as Lori started expressing some of these beliefs that went against the LDS religion, that you started sort of questioning her about this.
Correct.
After that, did you feel like she started pulling away or limiting her contact with you?
Yes,
You told us that you had moved to Arizona in end of July or August-ish of 2019, correct?
yes.
Did you ever see Lori again after you moved to Arizona?
Twice more.
Can you talk to us the first time that you saw her?
The first time I saw her, Zulema organized a girls' lunch to welcome me, she said. And so Lori was there. She came with Alex, her brother, and basically I said hi. And not much more than that. She sat on the other side of the restaurant, opposite of me. So, and not much contact there, but.
Okay. And then what was the other contact you had with her?
I can't remember how it was organized. Perhaps at that lunch, Lori invited the women over to her house to just talk. and she had just lost her husband. And I don't know if I was included by accident or how that happened. I don't remember exactly, but I did go over to her house that night because here's somebody that I knew, and she had just lost her husband, which that's a big deal. And I wanted to find out how she was doing and what was going on.
Did you know anything at that time about the loss of her husband? Like what had happened?
I had heard vague things, but I had been across the country, so I didn't know any particulars.
Do you recall who was at the house that night?
Multiple women, but I actually don't remember who was there. I think Melanie Gibb was there, and then a few other ladies, but I actually don't remember who.
And do you recall, was still that same time frame of like either the end of July or the beginning of August?
Yes.
Can you describe for us Lori's demeanor at this meeting, this gathering at her house?
I would assume, like in my estimation, it was more like stoic. I didn't see any like mourning or crying.
After that contact with Lori, did you ever see her again?
No,
Did you know that she had moved out of state?
no, not till long after she already had.
Did you know that she had married Chad Daybell?
Nope.
So basically, after paying your condolences, that was sort of the end of your contact friendship with Lori Vallow?
Yes, I think there might have been a few texts after that just to check up on her and see how she was doing. She had just lost her husband again. So, and I think she was trying to figure out how to move forward, and I was concerned. So, but nothing of substance.
Was your interactions with her via text very limited?
Yes.
No other questions, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
Ms. Sharp, did you take an oath when you came into this courtroom today?
Yes, I did.
Did you raise your hand?
Yes, I did.
Did you swear to tell the truth?
Yes, I did.
The whole truth?
Yes.
Nothing but the truth?
Yes.
So help you who?
God.
So can we agree that this court acknowledges that your testimony here today will be accountable to God?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to the relevance of this.
Sustained.
Your Honor, they brought up the religion.
Ask for a response. It's sustained. Ask the next question.
Do you believe that your testimony here will be accountable to God?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Sharp, how many times did we meet in person?
4.
How many one-on-one conversations during those meetings do you think that we actually had? Just you and me, nobody else around, just you and me.
Maybe 2.
2 conversations in our whole lives,
Maybe
just me
3.
and you.
You said during those meetings.
During the 4 times that we saw each other in person,
Mm-hmm.
how many times did you and I have a one-on-one conversation where other people were not in the conversation? Just me and you.
I can remember 3.
Okay. And how many times did we communicate on the phone?
Do you want me to estimate? I don't remember how many times.
Sure, just an estimate.
I'm not sure how to estimate that. Multiple times,
Like more than 10 or less than 10?
probably more than 10.
More than 20?
I don't remember.
Okay. And text messages, the same. How many times do you think that we conversed via text?
I don't know. I'm not sure how to answer that again.
Okay, so would it
Multiple times.
Okay. So would it be fair to say that some of the things that you remember are from other people and not actually from me to you directly?
Perhaps.
Okay. So in the instance when you said that I mentioned to you something about zombies, I would like to know what I said to you exactly verbatim about zombies.
Well, I remember we talked about zombies in 2019 for the girls' weekend. You had
Okay.
mentioned zombies.
I mentioned zombies at that weekend out of my mouth and not someone else, but me.
Object to argumentative.
Overruled, you can ask, why don't you rephrase that question?
Okay. So you're saying under oath that I said the word zombies at that meeting, or I'll go with that.
To the best of my recollection, it was that weekend during the girls' weekend, 2019.
And
Again, that was 6 years ago. So like verbatim, I don't remember verbatim, but I think it was that weekend.
So it could have been that someone else was talking to you about zombies, but I was actually there also. Is that correct?
I'm going to object that the witness has answered that question and said it was her.
Overruled, she can answer.
Would you mind restating, please?
Is it possible that someone else said the word zombie and not me at that meeting when we were all there with the girls?
It's possible, but I don't think it was. I think
Okay,
it
then
was
what
you.
did I say exactly about zombies? I want to know the sentence I said to you about zombies.
Hold on,
Again,
ask questions, okay?
I
make
object to
statements.
asked and answered.
So rephrase your question.
What sentence did I say to you with the word zombie in it?
I'm going to object to asked and answered.
Technically, it has been asked and answered, but go ahead and answer.
Again, I don't remember verbatim. That was, 6 years ago?
So it could be possible that it really never came out of my mouth. Is that true?
Okay, I'm going to object again to asked and answered now a third time.
Sustained.
Ms. Sharp, who are the three Nephites in the Book of Mormon?
The 3 Nephites? I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
In 3rd Nephi 28, the three Nephites, do you know who they are?
Off the top of my head, no.
You do not know who they are.
No, not off the top of my head.
Okay. In the Bible, do you know of John the Revelator?
Yes?
Do you know of John the Revelator being translated?
I don't remember that, but
You don't remember that? What about in the Old Testament, Elijah? Was he translated?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to relevance.
What's the relevance?
I've been accused of being out of the scope of the LDS religion when this is exactly in the scope of the LDS religion.
All right, I guess to the extent you're comparing yourself to these biblical figures, I'll allow it.
related? Yes, I believe so.
Okay. But you don't know that John the Revelator was translated as well?
I can't remember.
And then the three Nephites in the Book of Mormon, they're translated as well?
No, there were 3. You asked me their names. I don't remember their
I
names.
wasn't asking their names. I said, do you know who they are? As in, are you aware of them? I'm sorry. I'll be more specific. Are you aware of the 3 Nephites in the Book of Mormon?
Yes.
That they were translated?
Yes.
So is it fair to say that that isn't uncommon in the Christian belief system to believe in people being translated?
I don't know if I'm qualified to answer that question for all of Christianity.
Okay. Are you a Christian that believes in the Bible?
Yes.
Object, Your Honor, to relevance.
I'll allow it briefly, but hurry up and make your point.
Yes, I believe in the Bible. Of course.
And Elijah in the Bible is translated, right?
Yes.
And you believe in that, right?
Yes.
And you're a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, is that correct?
Correct.
So that would not be out of the scope of what you believe. That's all I'm asking.
Correct.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you. So when we were having this girls' weekend, what else did we do besides one prayer?
I remember going out to lunch, and we went to the temple and we did service projects.
Whoa.
So we had a typical fun girls' weekend
Yes.
with 5 minutes of a prayer.
I don't remember how long that prayer was.
But basically, out of the 72 hours that we got together, 5 minutes of it we spent actually praying.
Again, I don't remember how long the prayer was, but that was not, from my perspective, the focus or majority of our time spent.
Okay. How long would you say that prayer was? 10 minutes? Longer?
I don't recall.
Okay. But a tiny portion of our whole fun weekend, right?
It was a small portion, yes.
Okay. How many communications have you had over the past 5 years with Christina Atwood?
Many.
Like how many?
Again, I'm not sure how to estimate that.
Daily, weekly, monthly?
Weekly for sure, sometimes daily.
Okay. So would you say over the past 5 years that your relationship has grown with Christina?
Yes.
And are you related now?
To Christina?
Uh-huh.
No, we're not related.
Oh, as in-laws?
No.
Okay, I wondered. I didn't know.
No.
Your Honor, again, I'm going to ask that the defendant be told not to comment about the questions and testify.
Yes, the jury should disregard that comment after the answer.
Are you still in contact with Zulema Pastenes?
No, I haven't had contact with her in a while.
Are you in contact with Kay Woodcock?
Who? I'm sorry?
Kay Woodcock?
I don't know who that is.
Okay. Are you still in contact with Nicole Earl?
Yes.
How often?
Often. Again.
Weekly or daily?
Weekly, sometimes daily.
Okay. What about Melanie Gibb? Are you still in contact with her?
No. I run into her occasionally, but
You said also in your testimony earlier that I said that I believe I don't need to repent and you are shocked. Is that correct?
Yes.
What did I say to you exactly?
Again, I don't remember verbatim. That was over 6 years ago, but something to the effect of you didn't need to repent. Again, I don't know exactly, but, or we didn't need to repent, whatever it was, but yes, that's what I remember.
What was the context of that conversation? Like, how would that come up? I'm like, how would that come up?
I don't remember what we were talking about or how that subject was brought to the forefront, but it was, I definitely remember that comment.
You remember that coming out of my mouth to you specifically, not from someone else, but from me to you directly.
Yes, and it was, I think, in front of all of us, but I'm not very clear on that. I think it was to all of us from you.
So was I teaching a class that you attended and said something in that regard?
No,
Why would I be the one speaking?
sometimes we take turns when we speak.
Speculation as to why the defendant would be speaking?
I'll let the answer stand. She answered.
You said something about being uncomfortable on that weekend. Is that correct? With some of the topics?
Yes,
Why didn't you just leave if you were so uncomfortable?
I was uncomfortable with some of the topics, but I was still there with friends and I'd flown across the country, so it was not easy to leave. And I didn't feel like I needed to leave at that point.
But you're a grown woman, right? You have your own mind and ideas.
Yes, of course.
So would it be fair to say that you didn't disagree so much at the time, but now looking back on it, you disagree?
I don't think that's a fair comment. No.
And would it also be fair to say that we had a good time of that weekend
Yes, we did have a good time.
and that now you've changed your mind a little bit?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. Change my mind about what?
About what made you uncomfortable?
No, I didn't change my mind.
You had mentioned something about you were interviewed by the police a couple of times. Is that correct?
Yes,
How many times?
twice.
Who were you interviewed by?
The first time a detective came to my home, his name was Nate Moffat, I think.
Okay. When was that about, approximately?
I want to say spring 2020.
Okay. How long was that interview?
I don't remember.
Like an hour or less, or?
And Your Honor, the witness has already answered the question. She doesn't remember.
Can you estimate how long that interview was?
Well, from my memory, I don't remember it well. I thought it was only a few minutes, but
Okay.
I think it was longer than that, perhaps.
Longer than a few minutes?
Yes.
What about your second interview? Who was that with?
That was with 2 detectives from Idaho
And where did that take place?
in the Chandler Police Station.
And how long was that interview?
That one I remember being longer, for sure. Over an hour, perhaps an hour and a half.
And what did you exactly have to contribute to the police for an hour and a half with someone that you have only met 3 times in person in your life?
Objection, speculation, relevance.
Sustained.
What were they interested in you telling them?
And I'm going to object to speculation, relevance.
Sustained.
What did you tell them about me in those interviews?
Objection, overbroad,
Oh,
foundation.
also calls for hearsay.
Yeah,
Sustained.
Do you feel like you have something to offer here today in relation to the crime that I'm charged with?
objection, relevance goes to the final
Sustained.
opinion.
Ms. Sharp, did you see or hear or personally witness me conspire with my brother or anyone else to murder my husband, Charles Vallow?
No, I did not.
Thank you. No more questions.
Redirect.
You were asked a lot about taking an oath. Do you take that seriously?
Yes, I do.
Is everything that you told the jury here today the truth to the best of your knowledge?
To the best of my memory and knowledge, yes.
So when you don't remember something, you've been asked to try to guess. You don't remember how long something is, but you're not making up things in here.
I'm trying not to. I'm trying to go for my best memory.
It's been 6 years since you attended these meetings, correct?
Correct.
So you don't remember the number of phone calls that you and Lori had 6 years ago?
No, not at all.
You didn't keep tally marks of them through your days, put them on your nightstand so you could remember it later?
No,
How about the text messages? You tally those up for you so later on you'd be able to remember that you had 50 of them or 100 or whatever it was?
no, definitely not.
Are there things that stand out in your memory that you recall very well?
Yes, there are.
Is one of those the fact that Lori Vallow told you that you didn't need to repent or that she didn't need to repent?
Yes,
Was another one of them her telling you that her husband was possessed by an evil spirit that she named Ned?
yes, definitely remember that clearly.
You were asked about whether being translated was something unusual to you. When you are reading the Book of Mormon or the Bible, are there biblical figures within those books who are translated beings?
Yes,
Was it not something that you had heard people tell you that they were?
correct.
And
I'd never
that's-
heard that before.
So you read about it
Yes,
by prophets and people like that?
yes,
You were also asked about that girls' weekend, and I believe that the defendant said that you did a prayer. Did you have more than one prayer over the weekend? Did you guys pray together?
I can't remember specifically, but I assume we prayed over the food and we prayed of, there was probably multiple prayers, my guess.
Is that different than when you guys met to cast out the evil spirit of Ned inside of Charles Vallow?
Yes, it felt different.
So you wouldn't equate a prayer as identical to doing a cast out?
Correct. There are different kinds of prayers.
You were asked about why you stayed there that weekend. As someone who was a grown woman and strong in your faith, did you in fact question Lori when she talked about not needing to repent?
I don't remember how I responded. I definitely pondered that for a while. I remember talking to others. I can't remember if I spoke specifically with Lori about that at
So
that time.
you were, even though that was something you knew not to be within your faith, you didn't just pack up and run away.
No.
Were there other women there that you were also friends with?
Yes.
People who you're still friends with?
Yes.
These women that you are still friends with, is anything about your relationship with them changed the fact that you remember Lori saying she didn't want to repent?
I don't think so.
Like you didn't say, hey, Christina, I feel like just making up something to say against Lori. What do you think we should talk about?
No.
You didn't sidle up to Nicole and say, Nicole, let's make up a story about Charles being possessed by Ned. What do you think?
No.
Those are just your memories.
Those are my memories.
I have no other questions, Your Honor.
Are there any questions from any member of the jury? If so, please pass those questions forward. I'm not seeing any. All right, you can step down, ma'am. Stake and cards next one.
Thank you.
I didn't hear who she called. Oh, we get to see Lori. I want to see that face. She does not look pleased, and she shouldn't. Tell me how you think this is going for her so far, guys. Do you think Lori is making a valid point when she asks anybody, did you actually witness me committing conspiracy to kill my husband? Do you think she's making headway with the jury with that?
Come right up here and be sworn in. Just stand here.
Can you spell your name for the record?
I do. My name is William MacDonald, W-I-L-L-I-A-M, MacDonald, NCD, ON, ALB.
Oh, where did the volume go? What is going on? Oh, I hate that.
To my left.
Oh, okay, there it is.
Would you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is William MacDonald. I am a retired police officer with the city of Chandler.
What are you currently doing?
I am currently teaching criminal justice at Williams Field High School in Gilbert, Arizona.
So you told us you previously worked for the Chandler Police Department. How long were you with them?
I was with the Chandler Police Department for approximately 22 years. I'm sorry, 26 years.
Oh, that's a big difference. When did you retire?
I retired in November of 2022.
Okay. Can you tell us what your different jobs were at the Chandler Police Department?
As with all officers with the Chandler Police Department, I started off in patrol. I worked a patrol position for about 18 months, after which I switched over to more of a community services team. I spent 2 years with that team, after which I transferred to detectives and spent the remainder of my career in detectives, working primarily internet crimes against children and digital forensics.
Can you talk to us about specifically your training and education relating to extractions of cell phones?
When it comes to cell phones, I have extensive training in the use of the software that we use to extract that data. I am certified in the use of the Celebrite suite, which is one of the primary tools that we would use to extract data and organize data extracted from the cell phones. I was also trained, although they did not have a certification process, in several other platforms used with cell phones.
Did you ever go to any type of digital evidence examiner courses?
Absolutely. Beginning in 2001, when I began working digital forensics, I attended numerous courses on digital forensics, hundreds of hours worth of training, and I hold several certifications in digital forensics related to computers and, as previously discussed, cell phones.
So by 2019, what were your duties at that time at the Chandler Police Department?
By 2019, my primary duties were to conduct digital forensics examinations on computers and cell phones. I was also responsible for training new members to the computer crimes unit, in addition to assisting with internet crimes against children investigations.
In your role, were you regularly asked then to examine cell phones and try to extract data from them?
Yes, I was.
Can you talk us through, if you are handed a cell phone, what do you do?
Once we received the cell phone, and we would usually be given additional information at the time, usually from the case agent or the investigating detective, such as if there was a search warrant involved or anything like that, we would review the search warrant, make sure we had legal authority to do whatever it was they were asking us to do. We would then obtain the cell phone or whatever item we wanted to examine. My process was to start by taking pictures of the phone or the device prior to removing it from any evidence packaging. Once those pictures were taken, I would remove the cell phone from the packaging, take additional pictures to document condition of the device. Once the pictures were taken, I would attempt to power on the device to make sure that it had been placed in airplane mode, which would prevent any additional changes being made or outside people being able to access the device to make changes while it was in our possession. If it was in airplane mode, I would then attach it to whatever piece of software or hardware we were going to use to copy or extract the information from the phone. Once that process completed, which you would usually create just a single file, which for most of us would be meaningless. It was just a container file. And by a container file, I mean a file similar to, if you think like a box. The container file is the box. Initially, that box is empty, and we can put additional files inside of it. These container files would then be entered into, usually we would use the Celebrite software, as we did in this case. And that software would kind of go through the box and put everything in an organized manner, a manner in which people could read it and make sense of what that information was. We would then create a report, which we would provide to the case agents, and that would pretty much conclude our involvement. We would finalize everything by taking everything that we created, all of our files, all of our reports, notes, pictures, everything, and we would store them on an archive server at the Chandler Police Department.
All right, I'm going to go through a couple different words you said and have you explain them for us, all right?
Certainly.
So starting with first extraction, what does that mean?
Simply put, extraction means we're copying the information on the phone to another device, say a thumb drive or another hard drive or something that we have prepared forensically, which means it contains no data.
So when we're talking about extraction from, say, a phone, you're copying contact lists and text messages and photos and emails or search histories, anything that we have on our cell phone.
Correct.
Can extraction of a cell phone include GPS or locating data?
It can.
When you have extracted this, you talked about it not being in a format that people can understand. Can you talk to us just a little bit more about that?
So essentially these single files, when we have copied or extracted the information from the cell phone, it creates this single container file where all of the information is in there. That information is in the form of database files, other proprietary type files that without appropriate software or specific software to actually be able to read that information, it would be extremely difficult to piece it back together manually.
And so that's what you said, the Cellbrite software helps to put that in a way that we can read it?
That is correct.
So when you use the Cellbrite system, does that put the data together, like all of the text messages are now together and all of the emails are now together,
Yes, ma'am.
rather than just being jumbled everywhere, basically?
Correct. It will put text lines together. It will extract date and time information. As you mentioned previously, it can extract GPS and location information. It will extract pictures, and it puts all of those together so that like items are together.
Are you responsible for reviewing or analyzing whatever it is that you extract?
No.
Are you solely responsible for trying to extract the data from a phone, ensuring that that process goes correctly and that it is then parsed into data that lay people can read?
Yes, ma'am. When we extract the data from phones or computers or whatever digital medium we're working with, we follow forensically sound procedures to ensure that that data is not changed at any point along the process.
And so you said you also keep the original data file that you extract in a server so that if anyone wants to look at that, they can do that again?
Correct.
And then the phone itself, does it alter the phone in any way when you do this process? Is it blank after that?
Our process should not change any of the information on the phone. However, with cell phones, because they do need to be on during this process, some system files can change.
So it could add more data to it potentially?
Potentially, yes.
All right, so on July 16th of 2019, did you receive a request from a detective in Clan to examine an Apple iPhone that was impounded as item CH131035? And if I can have my paralegal approach with Exhibit 245.
Thank you. Yes, this is consistent with the item I received.
Were you provided with a PIN to access that phone?
We were.
Okay, and what was the PIN you were provided to access that phone?
The PIN was 0000.
All right, pretty easy to remember. And if you can bring that back. What day did you begin the extraction process?
I believe, if I recall correctly, it was July 17th.
So the next day.
Yes, ma'am.
You told us that you first get the phone and you are both documenting it and sort of noting it. I'm going to show you, and if I can have my paralegal approach with exhibits 180 through 185 that have been shown to defense counsel. Are you familiar with those photographs?
Yes, these are consistent with the types of photographs that I would take.
And those related to this review of this cell phone 245.
Yes.
State will move to admit 180 through 185.
Any objection?
No objection.
180 through 185 are admitted.
And if I can have the Elmo, thank you. Why do you take photos of the phone as you're processing it?
Primarily, we take photos of the phone to document condition. I will also take photographs of the item while it is still in the evidence packaging to document how it was packaged and if there are any evidence seals, what the condition of those seals are.
All right. So in this, when we talked about a item number, is that what we were talking about, the CH131035?
Correct.
Okay. That's exhibit 180 and 181. What are we seeing here?
That is a photograph of the front screen of what appears to be an iPhone X, I believe, or XS Max.
So
I'm sorry.
you get this phone, and I put 182. It's turned off initially when you get it.
In this case, this particular phone was powered on when I received it.
Okay, but the screen was blank, but still it was powered on.
Correct.
Was it in airplane mode, and why does that matter?
Yes, it was in airplane mode, and you can see that from looking at the upper right-hand corner of the phone screen where it's got the little airplane icon. And this is important because while a phone is in airplane mode, it will prevent outside sources from connecting in and prevent the phone from connecting to the cellular network or to any wireless networks, which will help secure the data that's on the phone to prevent any changes or from anybody from the outside accessing the device.
Do you check when you get a phone like this to see if there's a SIM card in there?
I do.
What is a SIM card?
A SIM card is a subscriber, it's short for subscriber identity module, and it's basically a little card that's inside the phone that holds certain subscriber information. It can hold contact lists. It can actually hold a great deal of miscellaneous information. We always check for the SIM card as a means to make sure that this phone is actually able to connect to a cellular network.
Did you see one here?
I did.
And then do you also check to see if there's enough battery power?
Absolutely.
What do you do if there's not?
If we receive a phone that is either powered, has low power, or is actually the battery is completely dead, we will connect it to a power source to power, to recharge the battery. The processes that we do required the phone to be able to be powered on, so we needed a, charged battery.
All right, so in 183, you are able to get to where you would normally put in a passcode. Do you sometimes not have passcodes?
Absolutely.
Is it easier when you do?
Much easier.
So did you try the 000 here?
We did.
0, I think I left one out. Were you able to get into the phone?
We were.
184, why do you take a photo of that?
We're just documenting what is visible on the screens, what icons, what applications are installed on the phone.
So you're seeing that there have been phone calls that have been missed and mail that's
Correct.
going on. And then 185, what is the relevance of this? What does this tell us?
That is simply information on the phone itself. What you are looking at, if it were able to connect to a network, you would see the network information there. This is obviously a phone that was associated with the Verizon cellular network. The IMEI and the ICCID and MEID are identifiers for the cellular networks, the network, the carrier, and all of that.
Okay. And so that is able to be confirmed when you look at the phone itself, 245?
Correct.
So in this case, after you got this powered up, what'd you do and took those photographs, documenting what you're doing, what'd you do?
Once we had taken the photographs, we'd ensured everything, the phone was in airplane mode. In this particular case, I used a device called a gray key device. I attached the phone to this gray key device and configured it to conduct what is called a full file system extraction of the iPhone. A full file system extraction is pretty much the best copy that we can make. It copies all the data off the phone, including anything in deleted space, any user files, any system files. It pretty much copies everything that's on the phone for us to examine later.
Okay. Now, does technology continue to improve in our world?
All the time.
So you did this in 2019, right?
Correct.
So whatever the newer technology is not the same as what it may have been back then.
That would be fair to say, yes.
In terms of technology, have you seen changes in Beressky and Celebrite over the years that you were using it?
I did.
And as each new version came out, did that ever cause you to find that data was wrongly recovered, or just that there was more data recovered?
In my experience, I never observed that changes in the software, updates to the software, would result in previously found data being changed or omitted or deleted or anything like that. What we would find is it would change the format and how that information was presented. On occasion, as things really did change and bigger versions came out, sometimes it would have the capability to acquire additional information that maybe it could not acquire prior.
So maybe it was better at finding deleted items or parsing things together.
Correct.
Okay. Do you recall about how long that process took to use the gray key to extract that full file system?
As I recall, it was approximately 1 hour.
So after you use the gray key, is that where sort of everything's jumbled in a box?
Correct. That's the gray key created that single container file with everything from the phone inside of it.
So did you use something else at that point to allow detectives and other people to be able to access and look for specific things?
I did. Once we have that single container file, I took that file and I opened it up in a program called Celebrite Physical Analyzer. That physical analyzer software is what went through that container file and put everything in a more readable format for detectives or whoever else needed to view the contents of the phone.
So that then allowed detectives or others to go into this new report that allowed you to look at a section that had just photos or a section that just had emails.
Correct.
After you used that Celebrite to parse out all that data into these different sections, did you conduct any research on that phone? Or
I did not.
did you look through any of that Celebrite report?
I did not.
Did you analyze or review any of the data?
I did not.
Did you provide the detectives who then had been working on the case with that to review themselves?
What we would do, since the Celebrite Physical Analyzer software was very expensive and actually required a key in order to use, the Celebrite software allowed us to create what we referred to as a reader file, which is a file that they can open in a program called Celebrite Reader, happily enough, and that would allow them to review the data in a free software platform.
So as long as you had the reader, you could then go through all the data that the Celebrite had parsed into these readable formats.
Correct. Anything that was included in when I imported the file or uploaded the file into the physical analyzer software, any information that was in the physical analyzer software was copied and included in the reader file.
Did that end your involvement with Exhibit 245, that phone?
I'm sorry, one more time?
Did that end your involvement with Exhibit 245, that iPhone?
Aside from making sure that any files that we created, any pictures that were taken were securely stored, it did.
All right, thank you. I have no other questions.
Cross?
Questions, Your Honor?
I'm sorry, did you say no questions?
No questions.
All right. Any questions from any member of the jury? I see at least one. Okay.
Oh, I am perplexed. No questions? Excuse me. Caught me with a peanut M&M in my mouth. Wow. I thought for sure she was going to ask a bunch of questions because she was so sure that her expert, which is akin to him, this detective, as far as tech and, the downloading of the phone and all. I thought she was going to go in to try to get some more information. But I guess she realized that Treena was on it and put all the information out there, like, give it your best shot, but there's nothing there for you to go for, because she literally accused the prosecution of misconduct and discovery and Brady violations because they did not send the full extraction. This man just said everything I extracted is in the reader.
If someone were to delete their browser history, can you still pull the history?
On occasion, browser history and any internet data like that, especially on cell
question.
phones, over time, if it's been deleted, it can be overwritten. However, if it is more recent, and sometimes by recent, we are actually talking within the last year or so, that information, regardless of it being deleted, can be recovered by the software.
Follow up from the defense based on that question?
No.
State?
No, Your Honor.
All right, sir, you can step down. Thank you.
Thank you.
State can call its next witness.
Thank you.
That was an excellent question. Don't you guys think? Yeah, and some companies do have proprietary deletion software. Some Apple is pretty hard to get deleted stuff from what I understand. I think Android is a little bit easier. Well,
State calls Marisa Francisco.
All right, ma'am, you're going to come right up, stand right in front of the wall here, right here.
Please spell your name for the record.
Yes, Marisa Francisco, M-A-R-R-I-S-A, last name F-R-A-N-C-I-S-C.
You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
All right, you're going to walk around the court reporter. Have a seat just to my left here.
Would you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Yes, my name is Marisa Francisco, and I am a forensic scientist with the City of Chandler in the Forensic Services section.
How long have you worked there?
I have worked there since August of 2018. Previous to that, I was employed at the Arizona Department of Public Safety, and I started there in 2004.
So let's kind of go back. What did you do at the Department of Public Safety, DPS?
I started my career in the blood alcohol unit. So my duty there was to test blood for the presence of alcohol. I was in that unit for about 7 years. After that, I transferred to the trace evidence unit, where I was trained to do hair comparisons and fiber comparisons. After that, about 2016, 2017, I started training in the latent print unit. In August 2018, I completed my training at the City of Chandler and have been doing latent print analysis primarily at the City of Chandler.
Can you tell us the training and your education to be a latent print analyst?
Yes, I have a Bachelor's of Science in Biochemistry from the University of California at Los Angeles and a Master's of Science in Forensic Science from the University of Illinois at Chicago. As part of my training for latent prints, it was an extensive 1.5 year long program where there was readings, lectures, comparison exercises, oral boards, and a competency test. I also have to conduct and complete a proficiency test on latent print comparisons on an annual basis. I am also a certified latent print examiner. In order to obtain the certification, I had to complete over 160 hours of certified training and pass a comprehensive exam.
Thank you.
Oh. Okay. I have no idea what just happened. Looking for another feed. Sorry, guys. I have no idea what that was. All right. Uh, let's just check. Oh
So
my
we
goodness.
talk about latent
Oh.
prints. We're thinking of people's fingers.
Okay. Well,
Where else where do we find latent prints on people?
Yes, let me start with defining what friction ridge skin is. Friction ridge skin are raised ridges on the palms of our hands and the soles of our feet. They are specialized and only located in those two areas. We often have oils and sweat and other residues on our hands, and when we touch an item, we can leave an impression of our friction ridge detail on that item.
Is that what most of us call latent prints, or I left a print behind?
Yes, fingerprints.
You started to talk about oils and things. Do people always leave behind a print if they touch an object?
It actually depends on a lot of different things. First off, the amount of oils and residues on our hands will determine whether an impression is left. Also, the deposition pressure, meaning are we gently tapping on something or are we like really pushing down on it? That will affect whether an impression is left and the quality of that print. The item itself is very important. Is it something that is receptive to prints? Items that are smooth, like glass, I am more likely to find a print on an item like that versus something that is textured and rough, like a cinder block. I would not expect to find a latent print on a cinder block. The condition of the item is also important. How many people may have come in contact with that item. All these different things affect whether an impression is left and the quality of that impression. We can very simply think of a stamp, our fingers being the stamps, the oils being the ink, and depending on how the stamp is placed on different items will determine how that impression looks.
Can environment also impact the quality of or whether or not a print remains?
Yes, the environment is also important. After a print is it left out to the conditions of rain or does it get wet? Is there a dust storm? Is it in an area that it has high traffic? Like if a fingerprint is left on a door to a convenience store and 100 people go through there that day, impressions are left, but if I lift those prints, I might not be able to identify them because there are so many prints on top of each other.
And so that goes to the next thing. So are prints something that once you make it, it's permanent and there forever?
It is there until it is disturbed, so it can be there forever.
Can we wipe them away?
Yes,
Can they be smudged away?
they can, yes.
So can someone rubbing an object, like a smooth object, get rid of that?
Yes.
Are there different ways or different processes that you use to obtain latent prints or friction ridge detail off of an object?
Yes, there are. First off, I want to define what a non-porous item is. A non-porous item is an item where water or air cannot pass through it. So when I first receive an item, I determine whether it is porous or non-porous, because depending on that, I will use different processing techniques.
So for a non-porous item, what processes do you use to try to find friction-rich detail?
Yes. On non-porous items, the main processing technique that I use is called cyanoacrylate fuming, more commonly known as superglue fuming. So items are exposed to superglue fumes, and the fumes react to any oils and sweat in the latent print, creating a white visible print that is not readily destroyed.
So you've looked at the non-porous item. You don't see any prints on. Do you look visually first?
Yes, sorry. The very first thing we do is I look at the request sheet and see what items are needing to be tested in that case. And also I look to see what the requesting officer wants done with the case. Sometimes they are requesting that the item be swabbed for DNA. If an item is requested to be swabbed for DNA, I have to use clean techniques to help reduce and limit contamination. So clean techniques are when I bleach down all surfaces with bleach, I lay down a clean butcher paper, I use sterile equipment. I'm only analyzing and working with one item at a time, and I'm changing gloves between items to help prevent contamination. So if a request sheet requests DNA evidence, I will have to use clean techniques before I swab the item for DNA. After that, I will do a visual examination of the item. Before any processing techniques are conducted, I will take a flashlight and look at the item to see if I can see any latent prints with a flashlight. If I can see a visible print at this point, depending on the quality of that print, I will take a picture or lift that latent before I move on to any processes. So after each processing technique, I will have to document what I find with either photography, scanning on a scanner, or lifting with powder.
So you talked about photographing these latent prints. How do you do that? Like how do you take a photograph of that to ensure it's the right size or shape or whatever, so you can later use it for a comparison?
Yes, I have training and experience in taking photographs. So in the photograph, I have to have a scale in it. So I have a scale with the case number, and I am just trained to properly use the lighting I need, adjust the lighting, focus it correctly, have it level with the lens of the camera, and I take a picture and document where on the item the photograph was taken.
Okay. So how do you just told us you document where on the item the picture was taken. How do you do that so that you can later go back and say it's in the middle of a mirror or whatever it might be?
Yes, I try to be as clear and concise as possible, because like I said, I have to take a picture after every single step. So I have to take a picture if there is any latent print at the visible step. And then if I go on to doing the super glue fuming, I have to take a picture of that same latent. If I go on to another process called dye staining, which we apply our fluorescent dye to even better visualize the image, I have to take that same latent again. So it helps me out to be able to go to find that latent. So I try to be specific on where that latent was found.
Do you, when you are processing a non-porous item and you find what I'll call a partial print or something that looks like friction ridge detail, do you collect it or do you say right then and there, I don't think that would be useful?
Yes. So when I am examining an item, at that stage, my conclusions are either no latents observed, meaning I didn't see any friction ridge detail at all. No value latents, meaning I did see some friction ridge detail, but I don't believe that I can do anything or compare them at a later point, or latents for analysis. So if I find sufficient, clear, latent print detail, I will take a picture of it. If I'm not sure, I go ahead and take a picture of it, because at this point, I am not really determining whether the print is identifiable. I am just saying that I'm taking this picture and I want to do further analysis on it at a later point.
So then for the analysis, are you then, after you process an item and you recover any latent prints that may be useful or which are you later asked to ever compare those recovered prints to known prints?
Yes,
What do we mean by a known print?
yes. So a known print is known fingerprints that are collected from an individual. They're typically recorded electronically or with ink. So in my comparisons, I am always comparing a latent impression that was recovered or developed versus a exemplar, and I'm trying to determine whether or not the latent could have originated from that exemplar, or whether or not those two impressions could have been made by the same individual.
Can you tell us briefly, when you are looking at this recovered latent print and comparing it to a known, what are you looking for to be able to make an identification?
I will explain what methodology we use for latent print comparisons. It is called ACE-V, which stands for Analysis, Comparison, Evaluation, and Verification. So in the analysis phase, I'm taking an assessment of the latent and the exemplar and determining whether or not they are suitable for comparison. If I determine they are suitable for comparison, I move on to the comparison phase. This is when I'm observing two impressions and I'm looking for the existence of similarities, differences, or discrepancies. Next is the evaluation phase. At this point, I am rendering a conclusion based on my analysis and comparison. The three different conclusions that can be reached are identification, exclusion, and inconclusive. So identification is the determination that the two impressions originated from the same person. Exclusion is the determination that the two impressions, the latent and the known, were not created by the same individual, or they do not have the same source. Lastly, I have a conclusion of inconclusive, and this is where I can neither identify nor exclude the individual from having made the print. So going back to analysis, during the analysis phase, I am looking at a lot of different things. First off, I'm trying to determine, is the print from a finger or is it from part of the palm? And also I'm determining the orientation of the print. If it's from the palm, I can also, depending on the ridge flow in the latent print, I can determine what area of the palm it came from. I'm looking at the shape of the impression. Like sometimes you have like a C-shaped impression, and that's this part of the palm. So this is called the writer's palm, and that's where I would look first when I'm doing a comparison. So besides that, I am looking at level 1, level 2, and level 3 detail. Level 1 detail is the actual flow or pattern of the ridges, our fingers have three main patterns, which are loops, whorls, and arches. Next, I'm looking at second level detail. I'm looking at the ridge characteristics. So I'm looking at where the ridges end, which we call ridge endings. I'm examining where ridges split into two ridges, which are called bifurcations. And I'm marking any dots, which are very short ridges. So I'm examining the latent and I'm marking up all these second level details so that I can later compare to the exemplar. I'm also noting if there's any scars present in the latent. I'm noting if there's some creases or if there are issues with the deposition pressure or if there seems to be some movement in the latent. I'm documenting all of that stuff in the analysis phase of my analysis.
I think half my paralegal take 249.
Let me
Leave that with her.
Not again. Not again. Stop it. I'm going to get a different feed. This is, I don't know what's going on here. I'm trying for, oh, yeah. Let's see. Okay. Sorry, guys. Just a minute. She swabbed the bat. She hasn't said what she
And
found on
then
it.
I did a
So,
visual examination of the bat with
Mhm.
a flashlight to see
There we
if
go.
there were any visible prints at that point. And I don't believe there were, but I would have to check my notes.
But looking at your notes, help refresh your recollection as to whether or not you did find anything there.
Yes,
Do you have your notes up with you?
yes.
Okay,
You want
good.
to take a look at those and then let us
I
know
wanna
when
know
you're
what
done if
you-
that has refreshed your recollection.
I want to know what she found. I want to know whose fingerprints are on there or what latents or whose aren't. Sorry, guys. The other feed went down, and it was the second time that it went down during the afternoon, so I just switched feeds. We didn't lose anything except for her explaining that she examined the bat for what could be latents all over it. Okay.
Did that refresh your recollection?
Yes, so at the visible stage, my conclusion was that there were no latents observed at the visual stage.
I'm going to put exhibit 35 up here just so that we can all kind of see what we're talking about. So the
If it was
grip
self-defense,
part
why'd they
here is
wipe
what
the
you were
bat?
talking
Why'd they
about,
wipe
that you
the bat?
swabbed because you did not believe that prints would be recoverable on that texture that was on bat.
Correct.
Okay. So then you visually look, you don't observe any latent prints or friction ridge detail.
Correct.
What did you do next?
I then used a processing technique of superglue fuming.
And when you used that process, did you locate or recover any latent prints or friction ridge detail?
Yes, I did.
Can you tell us how many and where?
Yes, I recovered two impressions that I took pictures of, and I would have to look at my notes to refresh where they were collected from.
If looking at your notes would help refresh as to where you located those, please do so, and then let us know when you've been refreshed.
Okay, so visually, she didn't think she was going to get any prints.
I'm ready.
Where did you locate those two?
The first one was recovered in the W of the Rawlings that was above the diameter. I think Rawlings is also on the other side. So that's why I stated that it was the one that was right above where the diameter is. And the second one was recovered in between the G and the diameter.
Now, you told us that what you are recovering isn't always look like a finger, right? When you were recovering these latent prints, were you able to tell by just recovering them if it was a finger or, like you told us, a palm? When you looked at it, were you able to immediately identify where they came from?
They appear to be fingerprints.
Was there anything about the shape or, I guess, the shape of them that made you think that they were fingerprints?
The first image, it was just the shape of the impression just indicated to me that it was a fingerprint. The size of it indicated to me that it was a fingerprint.
Was the other one, the second print, slightly, I guess, not as clear on whether or not it was a fingerprint or potentially from some other area?
Correct.
Were you asked to then compare those two? Well, let me ask you, when you obtained these two, you told us there were 3 different levels. Obviously, you collected something. Did you believe these were able to make identifications, or what did you determine about the clarity, the detail of those 2 recovered prints?
For both impressions, in my analysis, I determined that both impressions were NVID, which stands for no value for identification. This means that the latents lack sufficient clarity, quantity, and or uniqueness to identify, but may be suitable for exclusion. So the impressions were possibly excludable, but I would not be able to identify who made those impressions.
So were you initially asked to try to identify them to 3 individuals?
Yes, I was first asked to compare the 2 impressions to 3 individuals.
And who were those 3 individuals?
Could I look at my notes, please?
Yes, if that would help refresh your recollection.
Yes, I was initially asked to compare the 3 impressions to a Charles Vallow, a Lori Vallow, and an Alexander Cox.
So you told us, though, they were of no value for identification. So did that sort of end that request?
Yes, so when there is only prints that are determined to be no value for identification, we routinely do not compare those prints, but we say, if you still want us to compare it to anyone, please let us know. But initially, we are not going to try to compare NVID prints to any individual because they cannot be identified.
So did you then, were you then requested to see if you could make any exclusions?
I was then requested to compare the 2 impressions to Charles Vallow to see if I can determine whether the 2 impressions did not originate from Charles Vallow.
Starting with the first impression that you found above the W, but the other side of the bat from what we see in 35 here, where there's a diameter marking. Were you able to reach any conclusions in looking at the prints from Charles Vallow and that recovered print?
Again, I went through the ACE-V process, and during the comparison phase and evaluation phase, I determined that the latents, or the first latent, was inconclusive to Charles Vallow, meaning that I could neither identify nor exclude him from having made the impression.
So does that just mean there's just not enough in that print to do anything with?
Correct. So there is not, it lacks sufficient agreement in the detail to identify, and it lacks sufficient disagreement in the impressions to exclude.
And is that common when you have a latent print that just doesn't seem to have the level of detail just necessary for that?
Yes, that is a common conclusion.
So you're not saying it's Charles, you're not saying it's not Charles, you just can't do anything with it.
I could neither identify or exclude Charles Vallow.
So for the second print, did you also attempt to compare that to latent prints from Charles Vallow?
Yes, I did.
And were you able to reach any conclusions as to that?
Yes, my conclusion was that the latent was inconclusive to Charles Vallow due to lack of detail in the latent and exemplar.
Were you ever asked to try to exclude Alex Cox as having made those latent prints?
No, after I initially did not compare the latents to the 3 individuals on the named comparison, I was only asked to compare the 2 impressions to Charles Vallow.
So you also weren't asked to try to exclude or secondary compare to a Lori Vallow?
No, I was not.
And were you ever asked to compare to a Tylee Ryan?
No, I was not.
Did that sort of end your processing and comparisons of this bat?
Yes.
Thank you. I have no other questions for this witness.
Cross.
Oh, okay.
I have one question. You said earlier that the DNA that you collected, was that ever tested?
I don't know.
Is it sent somewhere else?
Correct. So
Okay.
the city of Chandler does not have the capability to test for DNA. Anytime we swab for DNA, we send it to the state lab for analysis.
So you swabbed it and sent it to the lab, and that was the last you heard of it?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, that's all.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Any questions for this witness from any member of the jury? I don't see any, so you can step down, ma'am. I think this is a good time to take our afternoon recess. We'll be at recess for 15 minutes. Please remember the admonition.
All right, for the jury.
Oh, okay. Well, that was interesting. That was very quick. Yes, a 15-minute break, but I'm staying here because I want to keep watching the feeds to make sure. I do apologize for the feed switching today, but I didn't want to miss much. It doesn't sound like we did. They can't conclude whose fingerprints are on that bat. There's only 2 latents. They're not really in great condition. Inconclusive to be Charles, so I guess he didn't like grip it really well to hit Alex, I guess. Being a baseball player and everything. But then again, like some of you have stated in the chat, the way that the, what do you call it, the handle or the where you grip, it's not really the best material to get a fingerprint from anyway. Basically a big nothing. But not only is it a nothing for the prosecution because it can't point a finger saying, hey, you said Charles hit you, but his fingerprints are not on the bat, yours are. They can't say that. But then again, Lori can't say, but those are Charles' fingerprints on the bat and only Charles' fingerprints on the bat. And then, well, remember the statement from Lori in opening statements. She said Tylee came out swinging with that bat to attack Charles and that she hit him with it to defend her. That's not exactly the story that Alex Cox did in his police interview. In my Discord, I do have all the interviews. But for those of you not in my Discord, if you go to East Idaho News, Nate Eaton has all of the interviews up Charles' body cam interview when he said that he felt threatened, Lori's interview, Tylee's interview, and Alex's interview after the event. And they're all on East Idaho News. Nate Eaton's been covering this case since Idaho, since the first part, before the children were found. And I think that's why Lori put him on the witness list, because she had a bone to pick with him. The evidence will show, Jen, right? Jen says, the evidence will show. Right, Lori. Yeah, it's not. It's not. I mean, for the prosecution's case, it's not great that the bat doesn't have much on it. And when they're talking about the DNA, I guess we'll see if we have other experts coming forward. A lot of this evidence has not been laid out very clearly in the files that we can understand what was going on. I didn't hear about a lot of this. I'm sure if they did have a connection to the bat, we would have heard about it. What has happened? Oh, well, Lori was Lori. She did cross a fellow LDS member of her casting circle today, not like yesterday when she wouldn't cross Christina Atwood. Oh, you missed it. Talk about that. All we did was really, it was quite benign, Mrs. C, the reaction. Let me just put that up. Claire, I'm disappointed. I missed chat's reaction to the zombies from earlier. The pre-launch zombies, really the only thing in the chat was the zombies have entered the record. And I posted that. But I also posted that Ned entered the chat because Serena finally said the name, because Christina Atwood, the other LDS member from the same ward with Lori, could not remember what name Lori had assigned. She just knew that Lori had assigned a name to the possessed version of Charles, the demon that was in him or whatever. But Serena had great recall. She knew it was Ned. So first Ned entered the record, and then the zombies came. But they did not get into talking about the kids and all like that. Welcome, Mippet. Oh, and Jen did call for a call out for the Cranberry song for zombies. And then we started talking about Dolores Riordan and her fantastic voice, and we did some reminiscing, right, Jen? Thinking about good music. Yes. Yeah, we did that. That was it. Mrs. Cassandra, if you were here, I know you would have started singing in chat, and feel free to now. Well, absolutely. We're on break. Yeah, that was about it. It's been a pretty light day. It has been good testimony, though, as far as her brother testifying, the disconnect in the family over religion and over these beliefs. It is a bit heartbreaking. I feel bad. But it was pretty clear that Charles was trying to do the right thing. And he actually was trying to get a recording of her saying this crazy stuff to bring to the church to have them deal with it. And Lori would have lost her position in the church for sure. These beliefs are outside of what they accept. And Alex has been excommunicated for several things. Her brother said twice. I did not know it was twice. Oh, she did. And she wanted her to swear to God, to make it as if she wasn't telling the truth. You see, Christina Atwood had already laid the foundation down for the jury that Lori had a problem with Serena. And she was talking bad about her, and she wasn't inviting her to anything. And it was apparent in her cross that, I don't know because of the information, but it did seem like there was a little bit of personal grudge there, as well as with her brother. She was quite miffed her brother didn't remember her enchiladas from 8 years ago. I'm sorry. I really cracked up at that. Because, man, the relevancy there, right? I don't think she realizes the relevancy she laid down. Is that her brother is not concerned about your enchiladas, Chicky. He's more concerned about your crazy statements and people being at risk when they're around you. And he doesn't remember your damn chicken enchiladas, your green chili chicken enchiladas, whatever they were. Zombie is a great song. I agree. That's the brother who identified the kids. I think it would be because he's one of the last ones left. But that is Lori's brother. But Lori's son is in court today, sitting with Kay Woodcock, Charles's sister, JJ's grandmother. And Kay treats Colby like a grandson now. He's sitting there holding her hand, and Lori has not acknowledged him. He's sitting with the victims and Kay. And I do understand that this afternoon, Kay Woodcock's coming up after the break. And that's going to be Woodstock. Is it Woodstock? Yeah. I'm sorry, I may be pronouncing her name incorrectly. No offense, Kay. I never would. If there are those that I really feel for in this case, as long as it's been with everything that's happened, it's Kay and Colby sitting there having to listen to any of this, knowing what happened to the kids, knowing the jury doesn't know, seeing Lori getting all this attention. Well, you know she's thriving on the attention. It's another reason I think she wanted to be pro se. She needs that spotlight. Ain't nobody could do it as well as she can, right? Mm. So she may not be a narcissist, but she definitely has some things to. Normally, I would say that's exactly how a defendant should act when trying to save their life. Her life is up. She should have been fled. So she has something to say. She should, even with something to say, she really should have took that contingency because she would have been able to bring her expert in and the expert testimony, and she would have been able to do a crime scene reconstruction if she had to. She could get her own firearms expert. You know, she could have done better work. She could have done better cross-examination of the witnesses because she would have actually had time to talk to them in advance and cater her actual questions to relevant information on what they would have said. My iPhone muffled? Ooh, what is that? Hmm. Is this any better? Okay, how about now? No, I'm not talking into them, Jane. I didn't even move. Liam, do you mean it's better? Because she'll say no. It's like I'm underwater still. Okay. All right, I'm trying again. Okay, hold on. All right, I'll be right back. Okay, I'm going to try again. How's that? Now I'm going to get the screen back up. Make sure that that's there. Is it any better? Come on. No, that's not right. Are you sure you're not just here? All right, let me just mute the stream because there's a lot of static coming through on their stream, and maybe that's what you're hearing. Seriously. Okay, I muted the feed because I hear a lot of white noise coming in from the feed. How do I sound now? Potato Mike. Oh boy. Are you serious? Hmm, this is no good. How about now? What do you think? Anything? Yes, I'm on the right. I'm on the different. I've only got one mic here connected there, Couch. And I didn't switch anything. I know you never just about audio. That's why I'm just like, if anything, I'm just gonna have to put the stream up and hope the stream isn't muffled. Hmm. No better? Oh my God. All right, I'm gonna try again. Okay, just be patient, guys. I'll be back in a minute. You're gonna see a blue screen. Hopefully, I make it back before they get back. Okay, what do you think? Otherwise, I'm just gonna be quiet. You just don't hear me while you listen to the stream. Oh, I hope it fixed. I mean, I left completely and restarted. What? Hmm. Still muffled. Still muffled? All right, hold on. I have no idea why it's doing it. There, I'm gonna unplug and plug it back in. Like what I'm gonna. I've done that like 3 times already. That's it. Okay, I don't know what to do at this point if it's gonna be like this. I've tried everything. There is no difference. Or I have an audio interface. Let me see. Hmm. Uh, Okay, well, you're just not going to hear me talk. Hopefully, it won't be that way for the feed. I just don't know what else to do. I have nothing else going on. I have done everything that I can. Oh, start my audio avatar. How's that? No. Are you telling me it's still that messed up? Seriously? I just heard the court feed. How did that sound? They just slammed something. Hmm. How about now? Anything? Oh. All right, I'm gonna mute and just let. Can you hear the court feed? How about the? I was muted. How could I
All
be
right, please
clear?
seated. We're
You
on the record.
guys,
The
there must
jury
be a
is present.
delay.
State call its next witness. All right, ma'am.
The court feed sound was on the whole time.
We do solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
All right, go and have a seat to my left.
Would you please introduce yourself to the jury?
My name is Kay Woodcock, Charles Vallow's younger sister.
How old are you?
How old am I today?
Today.
64.
And are you married?
Yes,
Where do you currently live?
Lake Charles, Louisiana.
We're going to talk to you about your siblings. You told us that you are Charles's sister. How many siblings were there in your family?
6.
And where did Charles fall into that?
He was number 3.
Who are the other siblings?
My oldest sister, Terry, then my next sister, Susan, then Charles, then Jerry, then me, then Bobby.
And where did you guys grow up?
We're in Lake Charles.
Were you close with your brother?
Yes, I was.
Did you know his wife, Lori Vallow?
Yes, I do.
Can you point her out in the courtroom and tell us what she's wearing?
She's the defendant over there in the black jacket.
Your Honor, may the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant.
Vigil.
I want to talk to you sort of about Lori and Charles. Were you at their wedding?
No, they went to Las Vegas.
Do you recall what year they got married?
2006.
Did they have a reception that?
I don't know if that's what you'd call it, but there was a family gathering in March of 2006 at a ranch in near Austin, Texas, that we all went to.
Okay, kind of to celebrate that.
Yes.
Had your brother Charles been married before?
Yes.
Did he have any children from his prior marriage?
Yes.
How many?
2.
And who were they?
Cole Vallow and Zach Vallow.
And did you know if Lori had any children from a prior marriage?
Yes, Zach, Colby Ryan and Tylee Ryan.
In when Lori and Charles got married, did Charles's 2 sons live with them?
Live with Charles and Lori?
Yeah.
No.
Did they stay with their mother?
Yes, they did. They visited, but they never lived there.
Where were they? Was that in Arizona or still in Texas?
In Austin.
I want to ask you sort of some of the ages of the children involved. In July of 2019, was Tylee still a minor?
Yes,
So she was still living with them.
yes,
In July of 29, do you know if Colby was still a minor?
yes. Oh, wait, no, Colby was not.
He was an adult at
He
that
was
point.
an adult.
And in July of 2019, were Charles's 2 sons, Cole and Zach, still minors or adults?
They were adults.
Okay. Did Charles and Lori have any children together?
They adopted my grandson, JJ.
And can you tell us how that worked out?
How that worked out,
Or
meaning
how did they get involved in adopting your grandchild?
Charles approached me about it one day. He called, and I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on then, and that was my son's child, and there was a lot going on. So I just told him then, look, I can't make a decision like that. We don't know how this is going to go. Just, well, just keep me in mind, keep it in mind. And so I kept it in mind.
And do you recall, when did they adopt JJ?
It was final in July of 2014.
How old was he then?
He was 2.
Did JJ have any special needs?
Yes, he was autistic, and he was born 10 weeks premature.
Okay. So he took a little extra care.
He did, absolutely.
Do you recall, so if he was 2 and they adopted him, how old was he in July of 2019?
He was 7. We spent his 7th birthday together in Lake Charles.
So in July of 2019, to your knowledge, Lori and Charles still had 2 children under the age of 18 with them, Tylee and JJ?
Yes,
So if in July of 2019, Lori Vallow was saying she had 5 kids she was taking care of, you were unaware of the other 3?
there were not 5 there, no. There were 2.
Can you tell us about the relationship between Charles and JJ?
Charles was the best dad. I mean, he was always doting on him. The arrangement I figured out eventually was that if Charles was working out of town, Lori had him all by herself. And so when Charles got back to town, JJ was his to take care of 100%.
Would Charles bring JJ to visit your side of the family in Louisiana?
Oh, yes.
Did you regularly see him?
Yes. Once JJ learned how to fly, and excuse me, I need water.
Sure.
Once JJ learned how to fly, and that because he was autistic, something like that is a big deal for him, and he loved it. So he was a little flyer. He loved to go in the airplane.
What did your brother Charles do for a living?
He sold annuities. He was a financial planner.
And how long did you know him to do that?
If I had to guess, 20 years, I guess.
Did he work for others or have his own business? What do you recall?
He had his own business.
Had he previously any times ever worked for others?
Yes,
But in July of 2019, he had his own business.
yes,
Did he have a business partner?
he did, yes.
Did his job require him to travel a lot?
He did. He would be gone 3 or 4 days a week, on average. Sometimes he didn't have to travel, but he was just, but yeah, he would be gone 3 or 4 days a week when he would be working.
I want to ask you a little bit about Charles. Was he sort of a meticulous person when it came to paperwork?
Oh, yes. I mean, for when you're doing that type of work, you have to be meticulous and methodical, and you can't make any errors. And you can't miss a dot or crossing a T, because it will get kicked back to you, and then it just causes a lot of delay and a lot of trouble. So he was actually, he said, there's never anybody I've ever trusted to do this for me. And I was like, well, I'll do it for you, because
All right, we'll stop here.
yeah.
So when Charles was working as financial planner, do you know if he had Lori help him with any part of his job?
I don't really know exactly what she did, but yes.
Okay.
But I don't know what she did.
Prior to Charles being a financial advisor, did he have a very different career in sports?
Oh, he quit. I don't know if, I don't remember because I was quite young then, but he did, I believe he was drafted in the early 70s into the Houston Astros minor league.
So when you were growing up, did you see your brother playing baseball?
I was raised at a baseball field. If it wasn't Charles, Jerry played for years, my other brother, but Charles stuck with it, and that's how he got to college with a degree, with a scholarship.
So you got stuck many a night and a weekend having to be at the ball field with your brother.
Yes.
What position did your brother play?
He was a pitcher. He was very, very good. He was a left-handed pitcher, and they're very hard to hit against.
Okay. Did he bat right or left-handed?
He was left-handed.
Did he do everything left-handed?
Yes.
Left-handed? After your brother, well, let me ask you, do you know how long he played in the semi-pro?
I don't. He had moved to Houston, and but he blew out his knee, and that's ended that right there.
Did your brother stay in shape after that, even though he blew out his knee?
Oh yes, he was always doing something. Always bike riding, hiking, just anything. Gym, he was very active.
So every time you saw him, he was taking care of himself.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you a little bit about religion. Did your family grow up in the LDS church or faith?
No, we did not.
Did you know Charles to ever convert to the LDS faith?
He did at some point during his marriage to Lori.
Okay. When Lori and Charles were married, did they always live in one state, or did they move?
No, they lived here in Phoenix, in the Phoenix area, Chandler, Gilbert, and then they moved to Hawaii in 2014, and then they moved back late 2016 or early 2017.
Back
here to Phoenix area.
do you recall where they were, what state they were in when they met?
When Charles and Lori met, they
Yeah.
were in Texas.
Texas, okay. In 2018 and 19, you told us that Charles and JJ would come visit you and the family regularly.
Yes.
In March of 2018, did you have a member of your family pass away?
Yes, my mother did in March of 18.
Did Charles come out for that?
Yes, he did. He was there for her services. Lori was not, and we felt like something was going on. Well, actually, my husband felt it before I did, and then when she didn't show for my mother's funeral, I just thought that was just appalling. It appalled me that she wouldn't even come to something like that with her husband.
What was your relationship like with Lori?
Because of the work I did, the company we owned, I was on the phone an extreme amount of time, all the time. So I really don't like to call people. I'm not a phone person. I'll text you all day long, but I really don't like to talk. And so Lori and I never really had a big phone relationship. It was a text here and there, but mostly Charles would keep me up to date as to, different things that were going on, or, what they were up to, or Charles would call. Yeah, Charles would call me mostly.
So it sounds like you weren't close with her.
When Lori and I were together, it was like we hadn't missed a minute. And we just took up where we left off. And she's very outgoing, and she's very friendly and very easy to talk to. And so we got along rather well, and I loved her.
Okay. So continuing in 2018, do you recall seeing Charles and JJ coming out to visit you guys in October of 2018?
Yes.
What was that for?
Just a weekend visit.
Okay. What about in November of 2018? Did you see Charles and JJ then?
We did. My husband and myself and my granddaughter, we went to Las Vegas, and Charles and JJ met us there for the Thanksgiving holiday weekend. I thought that was odd. He wasn't with his family. He said Lori was sick, or Tylee was sick, is what he told us. But he just wouldn't share what all was going on at that point. Then when he finally did, he unloaded it all.
So in 2018, did you have any idea there were any, let me say this, in 2018, did you have some concerns about their relationship?
Yes, it was, for him to come as often as they were coming was odd, and he was just unsettled, and we knew something was going on, but he would never say.
Okay.
So he did, he talked to us when he was ready.
When we get into 2019, did you start to see your brother more?
Yes.
First, without going into what Charles said, did you ever become aware finally that his marriage with Lori was in trouble?
Yes, I did.
In 2019, again, without going into what Charles said, did you ever believe that Charles was concerned for his safety?
Charles was absolutely concerned for his safety. Lori had sent me a text, I think it was on a Thursday, that she and Charles were fighting because of some stuff she came up with, and that she and JJ and Tylee were at a hotel. Well, I guess Tylee was, I'm not sure. and because she didn't want to have any fighting, so they went to a hotel, and I came out. I knew Charles the next day. That's when she sent it to me, and then I just really didn't. I didn't call Charles. I knew he'd call me, and he sure enough did. And he was a mess, and so I flew out the next day out here to help him with JJ and just to come and talk to him and see what was going on. He was alone, and Lori's family turned their backs on him and JJ. Okay,
Let's just kind of break it all down.
all right.
Now you got a lot that you remember. So you said that you got a text from Lori indicating that she and JJ and Tylee were at a hotel.
Mhm.
And then you said that Charles then called you maybe the next day,
Yeah,
and you came out here to Arizona.
yes.
When you came out here to Arizona, did you become aware at that point that there was a big problem now with their relationship?
There was a huge problem now with their relationship.
And during this time when you had come out here, do you remember approximately when that was?
It's like the 1st of February of 2019, or the 2nd. It was right in there.
When you came out here, did you then speak with Charles about his concerns for his safety? Just yes or no?
About his what?
His concerns for his safety.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
That's just yes. Is this the time where, well, let me ask it this time. When you came out here, did you see Lori?
No,
When you came out here, did anyone know where Lori was?
no, nobody was talking about where she was. Nobody would tell Charles where she was.
So your brother was trying to find where she was?
Yes, he was.
Where was JJ at this time?
He was with Charles, and that's what one of the reasons I came out was to help him with JJ, because he was quite a handful, and Charles was a mess. He was broken. He was a broken-hearted man.
So you come out here, Charles has JJ. Where's Tylee? Do you know?
She's, as far as we knew, she was staying at Lori's brother's. That's what we knew then.
Did you have any interaction with her?
No.
How long did Charles have JJ where he's looking for Lori and can't find her?
Well, that portion of the time was 58 days, and I knew how many days it was because every day Charles would say something. He would tell me.
So he was counting them.
He would count
Um, Were you out here the whole time? What'd you do?
them. I could work remotely at the time, so I did stay out here a lot, often, but I would fly back. I was back and forth between Louisiana and here from February until the end of March, because at that point we moved Charles to Houston.
So the end of March, you said you were moving Charles to Houston. Was that with JJ?
Yes.
Why are you helping him move to Houston?
Because Charles told me that Lori did not want JJ anymore, or Tylee, or him. And I said, okay, well, look, what if you move to Houston and I'll be 2.5 hours away, and when you go out of town, I'll come and stay with JJ. And so he was talking about hiring a nanny, and I said, no, I will be the nanny, and I'll come and take care of him when you have to work. And it's easy enough, and you won't have to pay a penny.
So when Charles has JJ, you're helping take care of JJ in this time period in February and March.
Yes.
What about Charles's business? Did you help with that at all?
Yes, I had to get my arms around the whole thing. All the payments that needed to be made, the accounts, the emails, all that stuff you have to change over and change the password and all that, so Lori couldn't access it any longer.
You said you had your own job. What were you doing at that time in addition to helping your brother?
My husband and I owned a coastal crew change. It was a transportation company for the offshore oil and gas and LNG industry.
Okay. So you're trying to work that job and help Charles with his business.
Yes, I had a really great assistant who helped me an awful lot.
Do you remember when you were packing up to move Charles to Houston?
Yes.
You there?
I was there.
Did Lori show back up?
She did. I was in the pantry in the kitchen, packing up the pantry, and I don't know what, just something caught my attention, and I walked out and she was standing there. She had her back to me. Charles was sitting at the table on his phone, and he obviously didn't realize that she was there. And then finally, when he hung up, he looked up and there she was, and he started crying, and she started yelling.
Do you recall what she was yelling about?
That, why did you take JJ? Why did you take JJ? Why did you take him out of school? Why are you moving? What are you doing? All this is your fault. It was just ridiculous.
So she'd been gone for 58 days, leaving,
No contact whatsoever.
and then she shows up at the house when you guys are moving out.
Yeah.
What was Charles's demeanor reaction? You said he was crying?
He was at first, but then he was just trying. Charles was a very soft-spoken man, and he was just trying to get a word in edgewise. And finally, Lori settled down a little bit, and they went and they talked for a while in the living room, or I guess it's like a great room. And then they moved to the bedroom to talk. And I could still hear every now and then Lori would get a little loud, but they were talking. And then I remember that Lori came. Let's see, I was sitting at the dining table, and she stood next to me and she said, "I love you, KK." And I said, "Well, I love you too. I'm sorry this is happening." And she cried, and I didn't know what to do really. So, I mean, I just was there. And then she walked off, and the next day she came. I don't know who came, but they got Tylee's belongings out of the casita where all of Tylee's belongings were. And I don't remember if she got anything of hers. I really don't remember.
Okay. So are we now talking the end of March, beginning of April of 2019, when Charles is moving back to Houston?
Yeah.
Did he bring JJ with him?
Yes. Well, in order for me and Charles to move in, Larry, I flew out here and brought JJ back to Louisiana with me. And then my husband, Larry, kept him for a week while I flew back here to help Charles pack and then drive back to Houston.
All right, so you guys rented a big truck and drove it?
He drove the U-Haul. I drove his pickup.
All right. When when you and Charles got to Houston, then did your husband bring JJ back?
Yes, he did.
Through all of this time with Charles, when he was looking for Lori while she was gone for those 58 days, did he still want Lori to be part of JJ's life?
He did. He did. He never was trying to take that away from Lori, even though Lori didn't want him anymore. I still didn't. I never really understood that, but I guess he was just hoping for the best. But yes, he absolutely wanted her to be part of his life, Lori's life.
So once Charles moved to Houston, did Lori ever also move out there?
I don't know if you call it moved out there, but she did. She came that day on March 28th. Charles said, look, we're moving to Houston. You're welcome to come. I'll fly you out Sunday. And she said, no, I'm busy. I have a project or something she was doing in Hawaii. She said, it'll be about 2 weeks and I'll be in Houston. So whatever she did, she was gone for 2 weeks, 2 more weeks. It was a total of 72 days, I believe, she was gone altogether. And then she was there. She and Tylee moved in at Charles's, and Charles said that she slept in JJ's room with him.
So the first 2 weeks when Charles and JJ are in Houston without Lori, were you ever there to help with JJ or Charles's business?
No, Lori was there. I mean,
I guess
JJ was.
before she moved there, the 2 weeks.
Oh, I think.
Or did
No,
you?
I had to go home for a little while, but Charles came like the weekend. And, so if I wasn't here, he was there.
Okay. So once you drove him there, you may have stayed to help him and then you went home.
Yeah.
And you weren't there when Lori came to Houston?
No.
You told us that you had been helping your brother with his business, and I think you'd said something about changing passwords.
Yeah.
Was that to different financial accounts?
Right. Credit card, bank, stuff like that. Yeah. The password to Google, the password to,
all the things you use for business.
Yeah, yes.
And so when you started helping him, you had changed a lot of those passwords.
Yes.
At some point, did you become aware or at some point, did Charles stop asking you to help him with the business?
He did, and that's when Lori came back.
Okay. Now, you said that your brother worked in annuities, right?
Yes.
Right? That last part of the time when you were working with him up through sort of the end of March, beginning of April, were you aware of Charles coming into a large amount of money?
He was receiving an annuity. What do you call it? I can't think of the word right now, but he was receiving like $125,000 check for his commission for annuities, and Lori obviously knew that because she was there just a few days before that came into the bank. That was deposited into the bank. I had access to the bank, so I would watch that.
Okay. So even though Lori came back, you still had the passwords to look into Charles's account?
Yes.
Do you know how long Lori stayed in Texas with Charles?
It's like she wasn't there the entire time, but I mean, she was always traveling through May. I'll say towards the end of May. I'm not for sure exactly what day.
Okay. So at some point, a couple months later, you become aware that she has left Houston.
Yes.
Did you know where she went?
Yeah, she was back back here.
Um, Did you know, did JJ come with her when she moved back here to Arizona?
He did.
And did you know, did your brother move back here?
No, he did not.
And with your access to the finances, were you aware whether or not Charles was paying for a house here in Arizona for Lori and JJ?
I really don't recall seeing that transaction. I really don't, but that, that doesn't mean it didn't happen. At that time, I was selling my company. And so I had a lot going on at that time. And that's when it was really getting, the due diligence. The company was doing their due diligence. So I had to provide a lot of information for them. And so it really was perfect timing because then I got super busy with my company and I didn't have to deal with all of Charles's because Lori was back. Or
Let me ask you something else. Were you aware of when Charles met Lori, or they got married? Do you know if she worked?
she was a hairdresser. She did work as a hairdresser and I don't know exactly when she quit working, but I don't think she worked long if she did after they got married.
Okay, so for most of the time when you knew them to be married, you did not see her working outside the home.
No.
Did Charles, I guess, work so she could stay home with the kids?
Yes, he was fine with being a one income, letting her stay home, tend to the kids, and he would be the moneymaker.
Now, I know that we've talked about Charles working in the area of financial planning. Did you know if Charles had a life insurance policy?
Yes.
That's something that, how did you learn about that?
Well, I mean, he had told my husband Larry and I years ago, he helped us acquire $1 million life insurance policy on, for me and my husband each. And because he always had one and Lori had one. So that was nothing new or unusual to talk about.
Okay. At some point when you were helping Charles, when Lori had disappeared and Charles didn't know where she was, did you have a conversation with Charles about the beneficiary of his life insurance?
Yes, it was early February when I came here to help him with JJ, and he said, "Look, I'm going to take Lori off as beneficiary, and I'm going to put you as the beneficiary." And I was like, we talked about maybe a minute and a half about it, and I was like, okay, whatever. I really don't want to be that person, but okay. And I never followed up to see if he changed. I didn't know until I got the phone call after he was killed.
So the discussion you had of that change was during that time period when he couldn't find Lori, he had no idea where he was, and he was taking care of JJ?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you were helping him take care of JJ?
Yes.
So if something had happened to Charles during that time when Lori wasn't around, would you have taken care of JJ?
Yes, he would have come back to me and my husband.
So I want to kind of go to right around that July time period. Do you recall when was the last time, I'll start with, when was the last time you saw your brother, Charles?
That's a good question. Probably must have been in June.
And do you recall where that was or the
I think he came to
circumstances?
Lake Charles for the weekend.
Did you see JJ then?
Yeah, no. The last time I saw JJ was May 18th.
When was the last time you recall speaking or texting with your brother Charles?
He texted me the night before he was shot, and just, hey, I'm going to be in Phoenix tomorrow, and how's it going? And just a little short text, and I'm boarding the plane now, and I'll be back in Phoenix in a little bit. And then he told me a few other things he had planned, but that was not much, not a big deal.
Did you
Nothing
think
major.
he was going to Phoenix to just see JJ?
Yes.
Did you know anything about any type of intervention?
No, he never talked. If he did talk to me about it, and I'm pretty sure I would have remembered that. But no, I know that he and Adam was his confidant during that time, Lori's brother. And so I know that whatever he was doing, Adam was part of it. And, they were just, I knew he was in good hands with Adam, because Adam, they loved Charles, him and his wife.
Do you have any knowledge of Charles wanting to get a place here in Phoenix so he could be closer to JJ?
I don't remember that, but I can't remember that. I mean, I don't think, I don't know.
No,
I can't
okay,
answer that.
that's okay. I want to talk to you then about, so you talked to your brother, just kind of normal stuff as he was, before he got here to Phoenix. How did you learn that your brother Charles was dead?
It was on July the 12th. I was at a nail salon in Lake Charles, my granddaughter and I, and I got a call from his oldest son, Cole, and he said, "Hey, what is going on? I just got a text from Lori, and she said Dad's dead." And I said, wait, what did you just say? And he told me again, and I said, something's wrong with that. That can't be true. And I said, have you tried to call her? And Cole's like, yeah, she won't. I'm trying calling, she's not answering. He was freaking out, and I was like, okay, Cole, just give me a minute. Let me think about this. Let me see, and I'll call you back. I promise, as soon as I can figure this out. So I called my husband to tell him, and he said, okay, well, I told him that what the Cole said, and he said, hey, let me call you back in a minute. And so I was still at the nail salon trying to get out of there, and he called and he said, he's dead. I Googled him, and he's dead. Alex killed him yesterday. And I mean, that was just like, it was horrible. I have to call my siblings and let them know. Thank you. And everybody was freaked out. I didn't know what to do. But I did call Cole back and let him know that it was true. And just was telling him, let's keep in touch. You find out something, I'll find out something. We'll let each other know. And
Did you try to reach out to Lori?
I've tried calling, texting Charles. I tried calling, texting Lori. And at some point, she texted me, she returned a text, something like, I'm having to deal with a lot of stuff and I'm busy. And she was too busy to even call his family to say that he was dead by her brother killing him. And
Take a breath. So you had tried to reach her and she was too busy to talk to you.
yeah.
Did you ever, what was the burial plans? Did you ever get Charles back? What happened with him?
We ended up calling a detective, the detectives in Chandler, since that's where it happened. And we were able to speak to a detective, I don't know who, but we told them that I had already arranged us a flight for the next day. We were here by noon Saturday because I needed to know I need to know where JJ was. I didn't know what he had seen. I didn't know what he knew. I knew he would be, I knew it wasn't good. But I couldn't, we had to talk to the detectives before I did anything with Lori. So, and we had to wait till Sunday to meet with Nate Moffett. And then when we talked to him is when I told him about the life insurance policy and that Lori, that I didn't know if Charles had ever changed it to me like he said he was going to do. And so I didn't know, but I just knew we had to get JJ because he was not safe with her.
Let me stop you there. I'm going to go back to Charles. Where was Charles buried, or where was what was done with his remains?
Well, this was before Lori knew she wasn't getting the money. She had him cremated and he was mailed, he was FedEx or whatever over to my office, along with his Letterman's jacket from high school and a couple pair of cheap sunglasses and 1 or 2 watches. It was just a few little trinkets. And Charles had a watch collection, and she just sent some crap.
So she cremated him and FedExed him to you.
Yes,
Sent him to your work office?
yes.
Now you're saying this is before she learned the life insurance policy was not going to be, she was not going to be the beneficiary. Did you set up like a service for Charles?
Yes, my family and I made arrangements for a memorial service to happen in Lake Charles on August the 3rd, which was, he was killed July 11th. So it took us a little bit to put it together, but we did.
Did you talk to Lori about having JJ come out for Charles's service?
I think the last time I talked to Lori was she told us that she wanted, I asked her, what can we do in Houston? I was trying to be nice because I knew she had something to do with his murder. And I'm not one that can just lie off the cuff. I'm a bad liar. And so when I did talk to her, I had to and it was a long, awkward conversation I had with her, but I was like, what do you want us to do with the stuff at the house in Houston? But when we got to the house in Houston, and she did, yeah, y'all please go do what you want to do with it, see what Cole wants, y'all split it up, y'all take it.
She gave you permission to go to the house
Yes.
in Houston and take whatever was there?
Yes, and when we got there, none of Charles's personal belongings were there, nothing at all. And that, I couldn't figure out why nothing of Charles's or JJ's was there. Or wait, nothing of Charles's was there. Just his business files and the big furniture, sofa, beds, stuff like that.
So you went there, you did that. How did you, and you told us that you did not know for sure if your brother had ever changed the beneficiary from Lori to you. How did you find out if that was done?
I think it was the following week, a lady from Banner Life, that's where it's policy, who wrote the policy. A lady called and said that I was the beneficiary. I was the sole beneficiary, and what was our address, and she wanted to verify a few things and to send out the check.
When you got that call, did you ever have Lori confront you about the life insurance policy?
Did I ever have Lori what?
Yeah, did Lori ever confront you about being the beneficiary
Oh.
for Charles's life insurance policy?
Yes. She didn't call and do it. She sent me a text one night, a picture or two of a screenshot. She took a screenshot of the change of beneficiary form with my name on it. And she said something to the effect of 5 kids and his sister gets all the money, or is that why you want JJ? Something to that effect, which it made no sense. I want JJ, period. That was a dumb statement by her.
So let me ask you this. So she told you again that she was left with these 5 kids, right?
Yeah, 5 kids. She had Colby and Tylee and JJ. And
at that
Colby
time-
was out of the house, so it was just Tylee and JJ.
So she's messaging you this saying how upset she is because she has 5 kids to take care of.
Yeah,
And then she tells you that, is this why you wanted JJ to come to Charles's service?
no, I had already gotten the okay from her to come get him. I was gonna fly here, pick him up, go back to Louisiana, keep him for a week and attend this, so he could attend the service during that time. And when she found out when she found the change of beneficiary form, she said that she was too busy. They were moving to Hawaii, and it would be too confusing for JJ to come, and he needed to be with her.
So after she found out and had confronted you about that change of beneficiary where you are now getting Charles's life insurance policy, she changed her mind and refused to let JJ go to Charles's service. His
Yes.
dad's service. After this confrontation about Charles making you the beneficiary of the life insurance policy, did that pretty much end most of the contact you had with Lori, other than you reaching out to talk with JJ?
Yes.
Thank you. I have no other questions.
All right, Cross.
Boy.
Ms. Woodcock, Where were you on July 11th, 2019?
At home in Lake Charles, Louisiana.
Were you aware at all of the relationship between Charles and Tylee?
It was, let's say, it was a bit contemptuous. It seemed like there was always a lot of drama going on, and so that's all I knew. He didn't say too much about it, and I didn't pry.
But you knew that there was some kind of contention going on with those two for
I
a
can't hear
while.
you.
I'm sorry. You did know that there was some kind of contention going on with those two for a while.
Yes.
Okay. And you weren't really aware of the events that happened that morning, were you?
The morning of
July
his murder?
Of July 11th?
No, I wasn't.
Okay.
Because you didn't tell me.
Ms. Woodcock, did you see or hear or personally witness me conspire with Alex Cox to kill my husband, Charles Vallow?
No, but I saw a ton of evidence that did.
Thank you. No further questions.
All right, redirect.
Just briefly. You were asked about the relationship between your brother and Tylee. How old was Tylee when Lori and Charles got married?
She was 3, or right around 3.
So was Charles in her life for most of her memorable years?
Exactly, yes, he was.
And how old was she in July of 2019?
She was 16. Yeah, yeah,
So teenager.
yes.
In terms of their relationship, are you saying that Charles and Tylee never had good times?
Oh, I'm not, no, I'm not saying that. I saw them have good times, and it wasn't, it wasn't that they couldn't look at each other, or, it wasn't like that. But I mean, yeah, a teenage girl on one is hard anyway, but I do know that there was a lot of issues with her dad and Lori with her ex-husband and custody, and it was a mess. It was a mess.
So Tylee had a lot going on in her life.
Yes, she did.
And you would see her and Charles at times have difficulty getting along.
I never really saw anything that sticks out in my mind. But I just know he'd tell me how it was just difficult. And as a step parent, it can be very difficult. I can attest to that.
So on July 11th, when Charles Vallow was killed, did you actually have any idea that your brother was dead?
None at all. How would I know?
So in terms of you learning that your brother was dead, it was never from Lori Vallow.
Or from her.
It was.
It was from Google that my husband found.
Thank you. I have no other questions.
Are there any questions for this witness from anyone on the jury? I don't see any questions. You could step down now.
Thank you.
Done.
Oh.
All right. Members of the jury, that's going to conclude trial for this week. No trial tomorrow. I'm going to try to start early on Monday and Tuesday only. So just to preview next week, I plan on, if you guys can all be here at 10 a.m., ready to start a little earlier than normal for Monday and Tuesday. And then Wednesday and Thursday, we'll be back to the 10:30 a.m. All right. I'll remind you to remember the admonition and avoid any sort of information about this case that you do not receive from this, that's outside of this courtroom, I should say. All right, thank you. We'll be at recess.
All rise for the jury.
Okay, well, jury is excused. I don't know if anything else is going to go on, but we're going to hang out with the feet up for a few minutes. But whoa, whoa, whoa. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Wow. Yeah, she didn't really have much for Kay, did she? I really feel for Kay. It must be very hard. You could see that she remembers a lot and she is nervous testifying.
Is there anything from either the state or the defense?
Here we go.
All right, we'll see you Monday morning.
All right. Lori has the weekend to think of another motion. This morning when we came on, or rather in the afternoon, it was morning for the court. Let me just switch this out so that the noise will go for just for a moment. Because my oh my. Okay. Lori had filed a motion to dismiss based on that whole report from her expert, Lonnie Dorkin, the cell phone data person who has not been approved as a witness yet because she didn't complete discovery. Well, the judge read the affidavit and it really just said that Celebrex had put out many updates and he would need the original extraction report to be able to do a complete analysis, because anything he does now is going to be different. And this is true. And that's how the judge read it. But Lori tried to say that meant that the prosecution did not give them the full discovery. And I think that's why she didn't have any questions for that witness, because prosecution, knowing about these filings, actually addressed that. Didn't really give her much to say. And the Judge Beressky actually formally denied her motion to dismiss and actually put in writing that it was woefully lacking in any credibility, and that when he reads the report, it does not say anything about prosecutorial misconduct or anything being withheld or anything like that. And he actually called her out in it while he denied her. And not in a mean way or anything, but just in a very matter-of-fact way. And hopefully she gets the clue that she can't just be throwing this stuff out, without something to it. Her misinterpretations are becoming very well known about things. And in a way, I wonder if right now she's not regretting not taking those continuations, because I don't know what witnesses she's going to be able to bring forward and what they're going to be able to prove. She has no experts on the list. She doesn't have anything to fight with to get her cell data expert in now. It's so late past discovery that she needs something new or some evidence to combat or rebut to be able to bring him in. Based on the testimony of the Chandler Police Department phone extracting expert, Mr. MacDonald, it doesn't really appear that she's got much to go by. Notice that Lori has only asked about conspiracy. Well, she keeps saying that over and over again because she knows that no one witnessed her saying anything. Although Christina Atwood surely did witness Alex Cox saying he wanted to kill Charles, and Lori saying that she crushed up meds and put them in his drink. There's no conspiracy. That was outright, saying they want to do it. She didn't have any cross for that witness, because if she had asked that question to that witness, that's what she would have said. You mean besides when, your brother said he wanted to kill him and you admitted to crushing up pills? Yeah. There is no witnesses to any of this because Tylee cannot be talked to. Alex cannot be talked to. Charles is no longer here. Chad Daybell, who it is rumored that while she was absent, she had actually seen in 2018 and in 2019 before breaking up with Charles completely. Remember that Tammy Daybell was also uh, killed after, and this is such a sad story. And, I really feel for Kay Woodcock to take the stand, knowing that she can't say what she wants to say. She has to say the name JJ and she has to say the name Tylee, but she can't say out in public in that courtroom. And you killed them. And you had them killed. And Chad is in jail facing the death penalty for it. And you're in maximum prison for 3 life sentences for conspiracy to help with that murder. And your brother's dead. And I wonder if she even wants to say her brother had something to do with it, because the articles around the time say that Alex Cox was saying things like he was going to get set up. He was starting to feel nervous about them coming after him, they being Lori and Chad, because he knew too much, that he was acting paranoid and scared all the time with Zulema. That was Zulema's testimony in the Lori Vallow trial in Idaho. That was Zulema's testimony in Chad Daybell's trial in Idaho. It does make the money. I do agree with you there, Charlie. Let me pull that comment up. That's a good point. Let me just my chat. I'm not well versed in this case, but today's testimony makes the money motive very strong. It does if you don't know. Yes. And if you want to know about the other two criminal trials that we've covered in regards to these, it's in the playlist. It's the Vallow Daybell playlist. Will have all of it, including Chad Daybell's trial. There is a separate playlist on my channel for Chad Daybell's trial, justice trial, and then there is a playlist of just Lori Vallow's updates for her trial in Idaho, and then this one. Now, the Lori Vallow trial, she did not face the death penalty previously when she was charged with the conspiracy murder and frauding for Social Security and insurance money in Idaho for her 2 children, Tylee and JJ, and also the wife of Chad Daybell, Tammy Daybell. She was convicted, but only got 3 life sentences. The death penalty was removed due to prosecutorial dating errors in regards to discovery, which has a lot to do with what Lori is doing in regards to making discovery complaints and things like that. She's hoping it can mitigate things or get the case tossed because it had worked in the past. In the previous trial, you'd be interested to know, Charlie, that she was 10 months in a mental facility working on competency. And there was a whole bunch of shenanigans going on. Latter-day Saints lawyer trying to contact her, Chad Daybell trying to get her messages. Oh, yeah, it was lit. Yeah. He said he was their fall guy. Exactly, Katie. You remember the case well, I see. So I kind of even feel for Alex because he was angry. He was a felon. He was in prison young, in his early 20s. You listen to that interview with his ex-wife, Debbie, and it brings some things into light. But I do feel he was manipulated by Lori a lot. They had a very close relationship, and I think it became very dangerous when Chad Daybell entered the picture. And it became Lori and Chad instead of Lori and Alex. Thick as thieves. And he was expendable because he did a lot of the dirty work, remember? We have another trial after this one wraps up, and that will be for the attempted murder of Brandon Bordeaux. And I do believe it was Alex Cox that took the threatened shot with the supposed paintball gun or whatever at Tammy Daybell at her home before she was discovered dead in her bed. They think that may have been Alex Cox. And they, I don't know. You'd have to listen to the trials. There's a lot. I mean, I have my theories about the whole thing, but I am glad that they were both convicted of those murders. There was plenty of evidence there, and I think it's the same kind of evidence here. What's really going to get interesting when the case gets turned over to the defense. We've got quite a few witnesses still left on the states. There are a few more from the police department. There are 2 more civilian witnesses. I believe there's the insurance person. And I do believe there's the medical examiner still. I think early in the week that Treena K will be finished and it'll go to the defense. And I don't know what she's going to be able to bring forward besides herself taking the stand. And if Lori Vallow Daybell does take the stand in her own defense, she cannot speak in the narrative. She can only answer questions. But I imagine the judge and the prosecution are going to have a hard time keeping her from the narrative answers. Someone from her team will ask her pre-prepared questions in advance. Yes, I saw that video, Katie, that was entered into evidence in the other trial. We actually saw a video of Lori and Chad fixing the Jeep up so that the Jeep that actually drove by and take a shot at Brandon Bordeaux, they actually took the spare tire out and got that all ready. And then they actually, later, it was Lori and Alex who actually put the tire back in and all. So it does show the 3 of them like working together into everything that was happening. You're correct. You have a very good memory about these details. No, not at all. Don't be sorry at all, Katie. But on that, I think I'm going to call it an evening. And we will be back with this at Monday at 1 o'clock. They're going to start trial instead of 2 o'clock, because we are on a 30-minute delay. Okay, so we will be here in time for the feed to come up. Hopefully we got a good, strong feed on both Monday and Tuesday. There is no court for Karen Reed on Monday either. Tuesday, we'll see what we're going to do. But I think I'm going to say with the prosecution's case, I do want to do opening statements with Karen Reed, but we can't always record. We'll have to see how it goes. But on that, everybody have a good night. I have a stream. I don't know what's going on for tomorrow yet, but I definitely have this stream for the second part of the 50th law will be Tuesday. My time, 6 o'clock, I believe it is, Eastern Standard Time. And then probably we'll do a real casual hang on Sunday if everybody's into it, see if the voice holds up. But on that, everybody have a good night. Don't forget to like, share, and comment, Put your feelings on the back of the videos if you need to. Get it out. Ask questions. I love to do the research. I have no problem sharing the information. So please, I'd love to hear from you. Okay? Even if it's something you don't like, I still want to hear it. We can't get better if you don't let us know. Thanks for being patient about the feeds today, and we'll see you all soon.